I found out a lot about myself and what a strong individual I became after the most horrific day in my life, which is now the second biggest massacre in the U.S. I knew that there was hatred in this world, but not till the morning of June 12th did I really know and understand what hatred was, what hatred toward the LGBT community was, what hatred towards the strong Latino community was. And that weekend, it changed my life completely. I'll go through that night quickly with you guys. I was working that weekend, had a full weekend of work. I was let go really early that Saturday for some reason. I didn't plan to go out. I didn't plan to do anything. But I was gone out of work like around 3. And usually Saturdays I always get a haircut. So I went to get a haircut and, I started to feel myself and I ended up wanting to go out that night. And was invited to a housewarming party. I made plans. I called my friends, I called my close friends, and we got there. And from there, we decided to go to Pulse around 11:40 p.m. That night was actually a great, great night. One of the best nights that I remember I had. No drama. Spoke and conversed to everyone that I knew that night. And it was time to go home. And I went and got my last drink. It was last call. And 2:02, that's when you heard the first pop happen. A lot was racing through my head, and I didn't think anything about terrorists. I thought it was something gang-related. So at that instant, we dropped our drinks, started running, and those first few seconds, I was already shot about 3 times. It was something very quick. I tried to get back up, and from all the chaos, I was trampled, and I ended up, the people ended up shattering my femur. At this moment, I couldn't walk. All I could do was cover my head and just hope that I was going to be out of there in no time. And everything happened so fast, but at the same time, it felt like forever. And now I was in that room. It was silent. The shooter was outside. And I looked around, and all I saw was, it was like a movie. Couldn't believe what was happening. But being the way that I am, I tried to comfort the people who were around me, who were on the floor. I held a lady next to me. I held her hand and was trying to comfort her, telling her it was going to be okay. And at that moment, we heard footsteps coming in, and we heard more shots. And he was making sure that we were all dead on the floor, shooting us one by one. And I can hear the shots getting closer and closer. And at that moment, he shot the lady next to me, and I saw her pass away. And at that moment, I had a cry out. It was a weird moment. I had enough time to just, have a conversation with God. I know not everyone believes in God, but everyone has that person who they cry out to. Everyone has their own God. And, at that moment, I just cried out until I was shot again. And I was shot about 2 more times. I didn't react. I stayed quiet. I held everything in. I wanted to make sure that he thought that I was dead. And at that moment, he walked away. And a few minutes later, that's when all the police started coming in through the patio door. And I took that moment to yell as loud as I can, and they grabbed me out of there. Unfortunately, the only way they could get me out of there was dragging me out. There was glass all over the place, so I was drugged out over glass, which opened up my wounds even more. So you couldn't see where I was shot. So by the time I got to the hospital, they didn't know how many times I was shot. It was very chaotic in the hospital. There was a false alarm as well in the hospital of a shooter. But luckily, a few hours later, I was in surgery and I made it okay. And I was able, having that moment to see my family all over again was one of the best moments in my life. Being able to know that I have a second chance